Hi everybody.
Hola.
Man, do we have a podcast for you today. So, episode 210, this is I'm gonna try very hard not to be smug about this, but I won't lie, it's gonna be hard.
Oh, well, not for
Oh,
a good reason in a way. Yeah.
The number of people I want to get at on this one. Anyway, today it's gonna be about a meta-analysis, what is called an umbrella systematic paper analysis that was released about the fact that low serotonin levels are not associated with depression, or more importantly, depression are not associated with low serotonin levels. It goes way past that.
So if you're not familiar with the podcast you made on this before, watch podcast 61 and 62.
62. It was called
61 is also interesting because that explains a little bit about depression and stuff like that, right?
Right. Well, we made a set of podcasts on depression and inflammation, for example, but
watch podcast 62. And
62 is called Serotonin, an agent of averageness. That's from Rick and Morty. Don't worry about it. Don't be an agent of averageness. And as I'm going to read this, there's so much to unpack here. I'm going to try to stay in a straight line, but I made a post about this and people got very defensive about their usage of pills. So the key is, no, low serotonin is not associated with depression. Sometimes the pills work. Yes, why? So we're going to answer that. But make no mistake, the happy pill thing is complete bullshit. We're going to get into that. And that's not the bigger problem. The bigger problem is the fact that the big pharma has won the culture war and allow you to believe that depression is caused by a chemical imbalance in the brain. That is what I want you to get out of this, because that is the problem. By stating those things through fraudulent science, they won the culture war that has netted them $13 billion so far. In 1% out of 8 in the US has been prescribed antidepressants based on SSRIs and stuff like that, which means to up the level of serotonin in the brain, because that's what causes depression. Turns out it's complete bullshit. So we're going to go step by step. I'm going to read the study. I'm going to go intro, abstract, and conclusion. Whatever is in the center is for you to read. I urge you to read this meta-analysis. And no, you're not allowed to give me your opinion on the subject unless you've read it.
Well, let's make that a deal.
Fuck you.
Right?
If you have not read it. Right. Let's make that a rule. If you have not read the paper, you can't give me your opinion on it. And you certainly cannot attack me on this. Anyway, I made plenty of podcasts on depression and some on serotonin. Now, we're going to go over the study itself. You're going to try to keep me in track because I want to finish the podcast with the big pharma and what the true problem of this paper is.
Yeah.
I am not diminishing people that suffer from depression and went on pills because they could not see a way out. This is part of the problem that was caused by big pharma, and I want to finish with that.
Yeah.
I do not want to lessen the pain that people have suffered. I'm saying since 1996, we're supposed to do evidence-based medicine, and in this case, it wasn't done. So we don't get to do evidence-based medicine with RCTs, random controlled trials, whenever it fits us, or when it fits big pharma and it's convenient. But when it doesn't, suddenly we're like, oh, it works anyway, who cares? That was the argument made against ivermectin anyway. So, long story short, let's read this. Systematic review. By the way, this was published in nature.com, the highest publication you can find for science. Now, do I think a lot of time Nature kind of chooses its subject? 100%. This is why I'm so surprised this was posted in nature.com. But what it means is that it got heavily checked, because trust me, big pharma does not want this out.
Yeah.
So it's called The Serotonin Theory of Depression, a systematic umbrella review of the evidence. The serotonin hypothesis of depression is still influential. No shit. We aim to synthesize and evaluate evidence on whether depression is associated with lowered serotonin concentration or activity in a systematic umbrella review of the principal relevant areas of research. So, meta-analysis, systematic review, meta-analysis, large data set analysis in the following areas were identified. Serotonin and serotonin metabolite, 5-HIAA, concentration in body fluid, serotonin 5-HT, receptor binding, don't worry about all this, serotonin transporter, SCRT, levels measured by imaging on a postmortem tryptophan depletion studies. That's going to come in. Gene association, gene-environment interaction, basically so much. So importantly, the studies of depression associated with physical conditions and specific subtypes of depression, bipolar depression, were excluded. So this is very important, and this is something we need to say again. We can't say depression because there's two types of depression. There's the somatic and the cognitive. So there's a depression that comes from the physical aspect of the system, and the cognitive depression that comes from the mind aspect of the system. Even that is an oversimplification, but you get the idea. We're going to look at cognitive depression.
Okay.
Right. What they mean by that is they're trying to avoid going, because they want to go at the SSRIs, right? The antidepressant pills based on serotonin, right? Serotonin reuptake inhibitors. And so they're trying to eliminate the depression that can be caused through inflammatory problems and stuff like that we covered in previous podcasts. So this is for cognitive. So they've been doing a very good work because they're going straight at the cognitive depression so they can attack the serotonin ideas. So we did not synthesize results of individual meta-analysis because they included overlapping studies. But the review was registered with Prospero. 17 studies were included, 12 systematic reviews and meta-analysis, 1 collaborative meta-analysis, 1 meta-analysis of large cohort studies, 1 systemic review and narrative synthesis, and it goes on and on and on and on. Keep on going there because you want to see how detailed this is, because like we're getting to good science so we can have a good idea of all this based on this, right? 2 meta-analyses of overlapping studies examining the serotonin metabolite show no association with depression. There you go. Over 1,002 people. 1 meta-analysis of cohort studies of plasma serotonin showed no relationship with depression and evidence that lower serotonin concentration was associated with antidepressant use. So they said that they saw evidence that using antidepressant lowered the serotonin levels of the brain. Anybody? No? Okay. Well, let's keep on going then. 2 meta-analyses of overlapping study examining receptors and 3 showed weak and inconsistent evidence of reduced binding in some areas, which would be consistent with increased synaptic availability of serotonin in people with depression if this was the original causal abnormality. However, effects of prior antidepressant use were not reliably excluded. There's a big pharma fucking with you there. 1 meta-analysis of tryptophan depletion studies found no effect in most healthy volunteers. So tryptophan is transformed into serotonin in the brain because you have to understand the enteric nervous system produces 95% of the serotonin of the body, but it doesn't go through to the brain because it doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier. So what happens is you get tryptophan into the brain. Tryptophan is transformed in serotonin. So if serotonin is responsible for depression, well, that's easy. You take out the tryptophan. There's no tryptophan, there's no serotonin being created. In that case, you would create depression. Well, did 0 of that. So the whole tryptophan, because a lot of people have said you need more tryptophan in order to up your level of serotonin to feel better. Well, it turns out that's bullshit. I'm not going to name names on this podcast, but man, do I want to.
Yeah.
I don't do that. I don't name names. But, man, did I. I did a podcast in French a few years back, and I did a bunch of stuff where I basically attacked specific people because I think they were selling snake oil with that bullshit of tryptophan and stuff like that. And this paper was written by people that one morning said, hey, look, we're going to help Strongfit. That's why they did this paper. Like, I swear, I don't know who those people are, but I'm going to send them a free sandbag.
Yeah.
Because one morning they decided to help me out. So I appreciate all of you. I appreciate who you are.
Well, it's not even just helping Strongfit. It's
no, I think so. No. I think it's me. I think it's about me, honestly. 2 meta-analysis of overlapping studies examining the 5-HT receptor, 561 people, and 3 meta-analysis of overlapping studies examining SCRT binding, number is 1,845, showed weak and inconsistent evidence of reduced binding in some areas. Sorry, I've already said that. And weak evidence in effect in those with a family history of depression. Another systematic review and a sample of 10 subsequent studies, so 407 people, found no effect in volunteers. No systematic review of tryptophan depletion studies has been performed since 2007. The two largest and highest quality studies of the SRT gene, one genetic association study, 115,000 people, and one collaborative meta-analysis, 43,000 people, reveal no evidence of an association with depression or of an interaction between genotype, stress, and depression. Oh, you all know you have to know who this is for. So they're saying there is no interaction between genotype, stress, so genotype toward, I'm trying not to call names, but this is very hard. The 5-HT receptors, there is none of that between the genotype association to stress and depression, which means you cannot design a training based on genotype for serotonin and stress. That should tell you who I'm talking about. The main areas of serotonin research provide no consistent evidence of there being an association between serotonin and depression, and no support for the hypothesis that depression is caused by lower serotonin activity or concentration. Some evidence was consistent with the possibility that long-term antidepressant use reduces serotonin concentration.
So, yeah. I don't even know what to say to this.
Well, let's go through the introduction because it talks, but honestly, all I got to do is a podcast reading this shit. And
well, I do have a few questions that might be a bit more basic. So why do they put people on these pills, and what does it do for people that say it works?
All right, so let me read the introduction and I will answer those questions. Yeah. So we're gonna go exactly at those questions because those are good questions, but let me finish the introduction. The idea that depression is a result of abnormalities in brain chemicals, particularly serotonin, 5-HT, has been influential for decades. It provides an important justification for the use of antidepressants. A link between lowered serotonin and depression was first suggested in the 60s, told you, 60 years, and widely publicized from the 90s with the advent of the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SSRI, antidepressant. Although it has been questioned more recently, the serotonin theory of depression remains influential, with principal English language textbook still giving it qualified support. Big pharma, baby. Leading researchers endorsing it, and much empirical research based on surveys suggest that 80% or more of the general public now believe it is established that depression is caused by a chemical imbalance. That's what I want to finish the podcast with. Many general practitioners also subscribe to this view, and popular websites commonly cite the theory. It's not a theory because it just got debunked. So it's an hypothesis and it was shown to be wrong. It is often assumed that the effects of antidepressants demonstrate that depression must be at least partially caused by a brain-based chemical abnormality, that the apparent efficacy of the SSRI shows that serotonin is implicated. Other explanations for the effect of antidepressants have been put forward, however, including the idea that they work via an amplified placebo effect and or through their ability to restrict or blunt emotions in general. So let's go first at your question. What is serotonin? What does it do? And why is it working? So serotonin was called the molecule of happiness. That is complete bullshit. The fact is we don't know exactly what it does. But I'm going to give you a simple thought experiment to do. Right. So first of all, as they were showing, you need tryptophan to get serotonin. There are two ways where you can have high levels of serotonin. For example, three ways. You give a pill that gets there. You increase the level of tryptophan, right? You get more serotonin, you get happier. Or you just stop breaking down the serotonin that is in place. Easy enough, right? So that would tell you what it does. So you reduce tryptophan, no serotonin is created, people are not depressed. That tells you low serotonin is not cause for depression. That's obvious. Now, let's see what serotonin does. Well, that's simple. We're going to have too much serotonin and see what happens. You do not study in the system in the center, you study it at the edges, always at the extremes, because it tells you where you go. So you go super low serotonin, nothing happened. You go super high serotonin, what happens? Well, when you have very high serotonin, for example, it's very easy to do. We've seen that in a lab where we created mice that cannot break down serotonin in the brain. It just keep being flushed with it. It's a very specific gene called MOMOA. I keep saying Momoa because of Jason Momoa, the actor, but it's MOMOA. Momoa? I fuck it up every time because I get confused with Aquaman. I get confused every time. Anyway.
As soon as you say actor, movie, or anything, I zone out.
As usual. Oh, you're getting better lately. Anyway.
I do. I watched Star Wars.
She did.
The
real ones, not the fake ones. Where was I? Right. So we take that mouse, right, and then we remove we mess with the genetic structure so that the serotonin in the brain is not being broken down, so it's flush with it, and you end up with the most aggressive mouse there is.
Yeah.
So we've seen that in humans as well, with a very famous family in Holland that places. Actually, is lacks that gene. So therefore, like the serotonin is being never broken down. So they are flush with serotonin. This is a family of murderers, arsonists, psychopaths, schizophrenic people, and then the entire male in the family were just all killers.
Surprise,
basically.
I'm their cousin.
I guess before we have a kid, we should test. We should do a genetic mapping test just in case.
To that family in Holland.
I don't want to raise Ted Bundy. I mean, but
you get extremely aggressive creatures, right?
So aggressive or sociopath. That's going to come in handy. Is serotonin in a way, so I call it an agent of averageness for a point, but you have to wonder if it removes certain blockages toward action. Again, we don't know exactly what serotonin does, but let me formulate it like this. If you hear people that are on Ssris saying, I'm happy now, what they are saying really is that they're not miserable. What they're saying is, before I was crying myself to sleep, I wanted to kill myself, or I was feeling so bad. I don't feel like that anymore. Right, so let's go at the definition of a happy pill. If I want to pee for 2 hours, but I can't, I get out of the car, I go outside, I piss against a tree. I have never been that happy in my entire life because I'm not in pain anymore. What most people refer to as happy is not as bad as they used to be. You're not full of joy. That's not what those pills do. They numb your pain, your angst, your problem with life. Yeah. So imagine if I were to give you a pill, if I were to give you a reason as to why it works, saying, so this is where I think Big Pharma did, and I think it's the work of the devil. You take people that are in pain, like real mental pain. So not somatic depression, cognitive depression. They are failing as themselves at what they think life is, for whatever reason. And again, I'm not lessening the pain, but you are in a terrible place. You wake up in the morning, you're down, you go to bed, you're down. That gun is towing toward yourself, and this is a hell on earth, right? Because there is no way out. Mm-hmm. Right. Here comes Big Pharma that tells you two things. I have a pill here that can make it stop, and you would do anything to make it stop. And on top of it, I'm going to say that it's not you. You are not responsible for your pain. What you have is a chemical imbalance. And all I need is a pill to rectify that and make you normal again, make you fit in. And I'm telling you that it's not you. Yeah. And I'm not saying it's you. I'm saying that's what the Big Pharma has sold. So how do I make you happy? I suppress your pain. Yeah. So I can tell you something, because I've been taking a lot of people out of Ssris, and the reason they come to me is because after 2-3 years of that, by the way, their serotonin level seems to be going down, but anyway, they don't feel anything about anything. They are tired of not being happy, because now that they are not unhappy anymore, they realize that that was not happiness. They're just not miserable anymore, but they want more out of life. Yeah. Life has no taste anymore. The only reason you're happy on Ssris is because you know if you don't take them, the pain is coming back.
It's literally the devil's work.
Okay, pain is a barometer of a problem. Like, I don't have time to go into the whole thing about depression because I've done so many podcasts about it. But understand something. You go from flow, right? You start at flow. That's, again, phylogenetic hierarchy. I made many podcasts about that. But you start with flow. When that fails, you go to fight. When that fails, you go to flight. When that fails, you go to freeze. Freeze is depression. Yeah. So, but that means it didn't start there. To get to freeze, you had to first get to fight, that you lost, to flight, that you lost and end up in freeze. That means that, unfortunately, life is beating you down to a pulp. But taking a pill that makes you not feel like that is not changing the problem. Mm-hmm. Right, but Big Pharma came about and said, it's not your fault, and who doesn't want to hear that? At that moment when you're down, when you're already feeling so bad about yourself, when life, even you can have a great life around you, but it doesn't change the fact that you feel like shit, right? About yourself, about the world, about everything. Because you're in freeze for many different reasons. But Big Pharma comes and say, I have a solution. This will correct your chemical imbalance, right? And then they give you that pill, and you know what it does? It stops the pain, because it stops everything, the ups and the downs. It just puts you right in the center. Then the placebo effect would kick in, saying this worked. And now you're not happy from the pill. You're happy because you don't have to be miserable anymore. The problem is it will take the other side as well. Yeah. And that's what Big Pharma has sold. And now, Big Pharma, I want to finish with this, but Big Pharma has won the culture war. So that's why it works, because you don't feel horrible anymore. You're not good, you're just not bad.
Yeah, I really like that example that you used in one of your previous podcasts where someone is banging their head against the wall and they stop doing that, and then
it feels so much better.
Feels so much better, right?
Right. That's what those pills are. They deaden everything. Yeah. That's why I call it an agent of averageness. And it seems that if you look at what serotonin does, it removes your capacity to stop aggressive behavior. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if it doesn't. That's why I'm thinking whether it has to do with being a sociopath, for example. Is that a problem with serotonin? In the sense of, what if serotonin is something that allows you to go toward fighting? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So that would make you, so having more would make you more aggressive. In a sense, it will remove blockades toward fucking shit up. Mm-hmm. But if you're depressed and you do that, then it allows you to go away from freeze, more toward the fight. But the problem is, this is not flow, this is not joy. You're fully into fight and flight. And you know what I mean? Like this system there, like, am I 100% sure? No, because it's an extremely complex subject. Right. But everything that I've seen pushes me toward that.
So, all right, so what happens if you take these pills for a long time, right? And you don't feel anything anymore, you get to that stage. If you go to your psychiatrist, right, and he or she
is telling you not to get off anymore. So they have no plan to get you off now, because they go, the second you stop, the pain will come back. Right, but what if the pain that you felt about depression and everything was cognitive depression? Because, like, the Zen master have always treated sadness as a state required for you to look at your life. Mm-hmm. Maybe there was something there, whether it's trauma or whatever, that has triggered something that needs to be dealt with. Taking those pills allow you to change how you feel about it, but the problem with that is you will never face the cause of the depression. You don't have to face the cause of depression, because the cause of your depression is that you have a chemical imbalance. That's what they sold. 80% of people believe that now. That the cause of the depression is not something in your life that needs facing, it's your chemical imbalance. That is why that is driving me crazy, that people understand why I'm so passionate about this, because Big Pharma has sold you a lie to sell you pills.
Well, and in a way it's saying that it happens to you and you're sick and that you can't do anything about it, right? If you say that it's a chemical imbalance.
Well, you're not even sick, you just have a genetic issue, have a chemical imbalance. And don't worry, there's a pill to correct it. Technology is so great. We are so awesome. Look at us saving lives.
It's a horrible thing to sell to someone.
Does he have saved lives? Of course he has saved lives. But if we're going to go that route and you give me the studies that showed pills have worked, right? Do you know that there's many, many studies showing that pills are just as effective, and sometimes they show 1.5 times more effective than those pills at curing depression? We would need to go into somatic error again, like change the world, change your prediction, change how you feel. Those pills, this is the problem, is change a prediction, which means whatever you face out of life for cognitive depression, you're going to have to change that. You're going to have to change a prediction. Instead of that, I'm going to give you a pill that changes the way you feel about it. This is the weakest form of dealing with somatic error. And changing how you feel about something does not change the problem. So when they stop, they're going to have to face whatever is making them feel like shit again. Mm-hmm. But if you don't do it, then you'll never get rid of it. And so I have people 4 years in.
Yeah.
They're like, shit, I don't feel anything anymore. But we take the pills away, some issues will have to be dealt with. And a lot of them, they're just tired and angry because they hate the lie they were sold by, the Western lifestyle or a number of things. But the problem is that culture war that Big Pharma has won, that tell you that the cause of depression is low serotonin, because then they have a pill to sell it. So yes, those pills have won, but those pills have worked because they deaden you inside, and the placebo effect makes you think that was always the solution in the first place. That is not you. If it's not new, there's no problem for me to solve. All I gotta do is to keep buying the fucking thing. And doctors today don't have a plan to get you off.
Well, and that's also what is so scary, right? They're putting people on these pills, but they have no idea how to get them off.
And do you think there's no side effects to those? And by the way, if we're gonna have the anecdotal evidence of the life they saved, how about we talk about the life they destroyed? Because there's plenty of people that were put on SSRIs that had horrible consequences based on that. This is horrible science. The Big Pharma does not need people to defend it. It does not. They have lied to you, and trust me, they were aware of that, because we're going to do a podcast on Big Pharma and the fact that they own the data and they only release what is favorable to them in order to sell stuff, which is fraud in itself, by the way. We are not doing, in the medical world, we are not doing science. That's long gone. That idea of random control trials is complete bullshit, because they choose who's being tested, and when they don't like a study, they just take it out and only put the studies. So they can do 10 studies about the same subject, choose the 3 that favor them, put them out, and forget the 7 that said it wasn't good. That's what they do. That's what they did with that. So now they're aiming to say, well, it still works. Compared to what? At what cost? Because, okay, and this is the most important thing, is Thomas Sowell, who said, always ask 3 questions. Compared to what? At what cost? What is the evidence? Mm-hmm. So the pills work compared to what? Exercise has been proven to be just as effective. Lowering inflammatory levels, visceral fat. Anyway, I talked about it in other podcasts. But at what cost? There are costs associated with SSRIs. And one of them, by the way, is joy. Whereas exercise does not have that problem. And what is the evidence? Turns out they don't have any. Why are we defending Big Pharma? They don't need us to apologize for them. They're doing plenty on their own. Mm-hmm. Like, yes, some work, it saves lives. Exercise saves lives. Jiu-Jitsu saved my life. Yet, what do you mean it saves lives? How do you know that exercise, or, by the way, there's another problem with that, is the further we think it's a chemical imbalance, the less work we do toward understanding depression.
That's the problem. It shuts up the entire
system.
But also the entire conversation about
exactly.
Depression.
Right.
And it also, I think it's to me it would sound very discouraging if you can, just give me a pill, and then you find out that the pill doesn't work, and you go like, what now? Because that would put you in an even deeper depression at some point, I can imagine, right? Or no?
Right, but on top of it, there are physiological consequences to those pills. They're not like anti-anxiety, antidepressants are nothing to, they make it sound trivial because it's been around for 60 years, like really 30, but 30 to 60 years. But we never look at how bad some people get it. Jordan Peterson talked about him taking benzos, anti-anxiety, and how bad it was. And you can't have a conversation about this. Yeah. Because it's a chemical imbalance, and that's science. Turns out it never was science. And so let me finish the stuff. And so look at there's methods, meta-analysis. This is a very, very, very thorough paper. They did not go into this lightly. They explain everything, serotonin, the whole stuff. It's massive. So now we're going to go into discussion, right? It's the conclusion of the stuff. Anyway, our comprehensive review of the major strands of research on serotonin shows there is no convincing evidence that depression is associated with or caused by lower serotonin concentration or activity. Most studies found no evidence of reduced serotonin activity in people with depression compared to people without.
Wow.
And methods to reduce serotonin availability using tryptophan depletion do not consistently lower mood in volunteers. So by the way, the high tryptophan diet will get you a better mood. It's complete bullshit too. Where was I? High quality, well-powered genetic studies effectively exclude an association between genotypes related to serotonin system and depression, including a proposed interaction with stress. That one, I just posted about it because they are saying that there is no genotype related to serotonin system that can be associated with depression and stress. So anyway, if you know me, you know what I'm saying. However, these results are likely, including stress. Weak evidence from some studies of serotonin 5-HT receptors and level of SRT points toward a possible association between increased serotonin activity and depression. However, these results are likely to be influenced by prior use of antidepressants and its effects on the serotonin system. The effects of tryptophan depletion in some crossover studies involving people with depression may also be mediated by antidepressants, although those are not consistently found. The chemical imbalance theory of depression is still put forward by professionals, aka drug dealers. And the serotonin theory in particular has formed the basis of a considerable research effort over the last few decades. Well, no shit with the money they're making. The general public widely believes that depression has been convincingly demonstrated to be the result of serotonin or other chemical abnormalities. And this belief shapes how people understand their moods, leading to a pessimistic outlook on the outcome of depression and negative expectancies about the possibility of self-regulation of mood. It's exactly what I just said. Right, so anyway, let me finish. The idea that depression is a result of a chemical imbalance also influences decisions about whether to take or continue antidepressant medication and may discourage people from discontinuing treatment, potentially leading to lifelong dependence on these drugs. Fuck yeah. As well as with all research synthesis, the findings of this umbrella review are dependent on the quality of the included studies and susceptible to their limitations. Most of the included studies were rated as low quality on the Armstar 2, but the GRADE approach suggested some findings were reasonably robust. Most of the non-genetic studies did not reliably exclude the potential effects of previous antidepressants use and were based on relatively small number of participants. The genetic studies in particular illustrate the importance of methodological rigor and sample size. Whereas some earlier lower quality, mostly smaller studies produced marginally positive findings, these were not confirmed in better conducted, larger, more recent studies. Right, and you think that's by accident? That those earlier, lower quality, mostly smaller studies produce positive findings? That's not by accident. Yes, that's what they've been doing. They've been fucking with us. I will let you. One study in this review found that antidepressant use was associated with a reduction of plasma serotonin, and it is possible that the evidence of reduction in ECRT density and 5-HT receptors in some of the included imaging studies review may reflect compensatory adaptation to serotonin lowering effects of prior antidepressant use. Well, yeah, the body adapted. Authors of one meta-analysis also highlighted evidence of 5-HIAA levels being reduced after long-term antidepressant treatments. These findings suggest that in the long term, antidepressant might produce compensatory changes, that are opposite to their acute effects. Lower serotonin availability has also been demonstrated in animal studies following prolonged antidepressant administration. Further research is required to clarify the effects of different drugs on neurochemical systems, including the serotonin system. This review suggests that the huge research effort based on the serotonin hypothesis has not produced convincing evidence of a biochemical basis to depression. This is consistent with research on many other biological markers, which suggests it is time to acknowledge that the serotonin theory of depression is not empirically substantiated. Mic dropped. So depression comes from various things, and if we talk about cognitive depression, it is a problem to be solved. Welcome to life. It's complicated, it's messy, and you need to deal with it. And existentialists like Nietzsche had basically talked about this. The problem is, that we have now is that money got in the way, big pharma got in the way, and they managed to hijack the conversation and put it as a chemical imbalance problem. Yeah. Because if they do that, they can sell a pill to fix the problem. So they created a ghost cause reason so that they could sell a pill. They do that with everything. There's a pill before there's a disease now.
Yeah.
So that's what they did. They had the pills. So by the way, let's go about SSRIs because you need to understand how far this shit goes. Do you know how they test it?
On rats, right?
Right, it's on mice. So they're going to take a mice, make it hang upside down, and then they're going to see how long the mice resist. Yeah. They're going to feed it SSRIs. The longer it moves, therefore antidepressant. Same thing, they're going to put it in water until it stops moving. Yeah. And if it moves longer, that means the antidepressant worked. That's the original form of testing for depression on mice like that. So again, that doesn't mean serotonin does not have an effect. It does not have the effect on depression. I think this serotonin is a powerful thing, but it seems to be toward aggression levels, or at least physical aggression levels. Mm-hmm. We don't know exactly what it is, but it doesn't matter. There is no clear empirical evidence that shows that low serotonin causes depression. That one we know. So those SSRIs do not fix your depression. What it does is it deadens your bad feelings, making you think you're better. And technically it's true, but again, if I bang my head against the wall and I stop, technically I'm better. And that happy pill is because, again, if I have to pee for 2 hours and I pee, this is the greatest happy feeling in my life. It's not happy, there's a name for that feeling. It's called relief.
It's basically a mental painkiller, right?
It's relief, yes. It provides you relief. That's what it does. I'm not saying you don't deserve relief. I'm saying that's what it does. It is not fixing your depression. And that's why doctors will not take you off, because you're afraid you're going to go right back to where you were, because you never fixed the problem in the first place. It is all bullshit. It is money, nothing else. Has it saved lives? Yes. If it stops you from jumping off the bridge, great. We need to figure out why you wanted to jump off the bridge. Yeah. And guess what? It was not because you had a chemical imbalance in your brain. They are appealing to your basest instincts of, it's not my fault, it's not me, I'm not the one to blame, in order to sell you a pill. That's what they did.
Yeah.
This is the devil's work.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's just, you're so passionate about it because you know what they're selling you. And I think that's what you've been trying to tell for so many years. My
brother committed suicide. I almost jumped off of a bridge. By saying that, no one is going to see the algorithm is going to realize I said suicide, and then we're getting shadow banned on this one.
We're already shadow banned.
We shadow banned like motherfuckers on YouTube anyway.
Yeah.
And I help a lot of people with mental health and everything. I grew up in that environment. I know exactly what this is. This is why you need to read Nietzsche. Life is hard. Life is messy. It's ugly. It's also beautiful and giving, but it can take away everything at the same time. This is life. It's more complex than you. That's why I like, again, that Instagram stuff, nature is metal, because it reminds you that there are wild dogs that are eating an impala alive right now. That's the world we live in. It's also beautiful, but it's not beautiful all the time. And that idea that you are owed happiness in life is fucking absurd. The world does not care. You are not owed anything. Depression, you can either have the somatic depression, which I talked about, inflammation, visceral fat and everything. The cognitive depression is you need to fix your life. Something in your life is not giving you what you want. If you're on the cognitive side, maybe you're on the somatic side, which means your lifestyle is stopping you from being who you should be. Both sides is the same thing. It's your lifestyle. You are either not facing things, or you're not facing a lifestyle that is necessary for you to become who you are. Life forward is a hard road. And for some of us, it's a very, very hard road. And some don't make it. And I feel for all of them. Big Pharma is selling you a lie by telling you it's not you, it's just a chemical imbalance, and giving you a pill that has its own set of problems. But no matter what.
Let's go into Big Pharma a little bit, because let's talk about it a little bit. We'll make a full podcast about it, but let's explain what they're doing.
Right, so you have to understand that Big Pharma right now finances 85% of studies out there in the medical world.
Yeah.
85%.
Which is so freaking
because
dangerous.
it's so expensive to conduct studies. So what they do though is when they do those studies is they own the data and they do not have to release it. They can tell you they released it, but they can be lying and you will never know. So that means that, and you can imagine this, when there's a lot of money involved in the thing, that it's a simple game. They don't even have to lie about a study, right? By the way, they do that too. Like we've seen that with Vioxx and other drugs, where they literally fudge the numbers. They're up here, they're up there. So random control trial is complete bullshit. They choose who's going to be tested, so that's not random. And after that, they're going to start bumping this number or lowering this number. So they fudge with the study to start with. But even if they don't fudge with the study, they don't even need to do that. They can have a perfectly good study chosen based on certain peoples. Right, and then they're going to have the other studies. So again, they can do 10 studies, 100, whatever. And if 20% of the studies are positive, 80% are negative, you would think that's not a good product. So they'll take the 80% negative, put the 20% positive and go, look, the drug works so well. And that's what they're giving you, that's what they're selling. This is not evidence-based medicine. This is not science. We are not doing science in the medical world. This is what I want people to know.
Yeah.
This is not science. We're not doing science. So stop with I read a study, I did this. This is not science. What you read is what the drug industry wants to give you. So that's all.
So how did we get to the stage where Big Pharma have that power?
Money. That's the problem with capitalism is we are entering in a world of big corporation. The problem is not corporation. The problem is not government. The problem is big. We are entering in a world of big, and that is creating a massive set of issues.
Yeah.
We'll do a podcast about that. But the problem is big. They have too much power. The corruption between, you have the arm industry and you have the big pharma, and those two have a back and forth with the government that is absolutely insane, especially in the US. And have you seen, it's mostly in the English-speaking language that we have that problem, because it's the US, and the back and forth between big executive in big pharma and government, and they go back and forth. They have a full control of the system, and they are never called out, and they never will be. So those studies that we get is what they want us to see. So imagine what's in the back. And so that's the problem. They have shaped the debate, and they have won the culture war. What we need to understand now is that depression to fix is not in the hand of big pharma. It is in your hand. As painful as this sounds, it is in your hand. You need to fix it. And some people will go, well, I did years of therapy. Then you did the wrong ones. That's all. And I feel for your pain, and it's a horrible place to be into, and I want you to get better. This is not the way. All they're giving you is something to deaden the pain. But once the pain is deadened, you will not go fix the problem because you have no reason, because you don't feel the pain anymore. That's what depression is. It's a way forward. Depression is a need to fundamentally change a problem at the root level, almost who you are toward X. This is a very, very painful process, and it has to be, otherwise you will not do that change. I made plenty of podcasts on the subject, but there's deep physiological reasons for this.
I would really, if people watching right now haven't watched the other podcasts, I would really recommend watching those, because then I think you'll also understand why Julian is so passionate about it. It's like he wants to help, you know what I mean?
He kills people every year. Stop saying it saves lives. He also kills lives. It doesn't just save them. He also kills a number of people every year. They are lying to us. We got 2 years of COVID and stuff and everything about evidence-based medicine and science and stuff. All right, then if we're going to go that route, then we have to look at this meta-analysis and say SSRIs are not what they were sold to be, and we need to take a look at it. If we don't do that, then doctors are just drug dealers then, which I believe they are, but at least let's have it in the open. Mm-hmm. Then let's have it in the open. None of you want science then. You don't care about science, you just care about happy pills and an easy fix to a deep problem.
And I
And
think,
if that's what people want, then that's fine. But then we're all gonna die then. Fuck it.
well, and I think what the beauty of this study is that it shows that that's not the way and that there is another way, which is all the stuff you have been
We need to
created
study
for.
depression.
Yeah, and
We need to understand it deeply.
But there's also like good ways to get out of it without these drugs, right?
Right, and they say,
And-
yeah, but the good ways are always the same. That's what exercises does. It forces you to contemplate certain things, to make you go after that. You have to take action. This is back to the free energy principle, the 3 ways to fix somatic error. Changing how you feel is not the way, or in that case, not feeling horrible is not the way forward. You need to change the world. That's the way out. Always, it's about changing the world. And so, yes, I'm very sorry you're in so much pain and everything, but understand what they're doing. Understand, like, on a societal level, what they're doing. They have won the culture war on what depression is, even though it's completely wrong. So even the comments I had on Instagram, no, the levels of serotonin are not responsible for your depression. Why does it work? Because it deadens the pain. You're feeling relief, not happiness. And yes, but someone needs to say it. And it's a horrible thing to say, but that's not happiness, that's just relief. And yes, I don't want you to be in pain. Then let's fix it then. Let's change the world.
Exactly.
Let's fix it. Let's understand depression, let's fix it. And in the meantime, yes, it's horrible, but this is not the way. And no, depression is not caused by low serotonin. No, tryptophan diet will not put you in a better mood. No, there is no genotype associated with serotonin, stress, and training.
And the people who are making money off of selling that lie are just
right. So I fully expect excuses and whoops, I was wrong from a bunch of people. No, I'm never gonna get it. I'm being sarcastic.
But like, come on, you don't know, like those people, like, don't make money off of that. Like,
I'm being sarcastic.
And I'm talking about big pharma, and I'm talking about the people who sell that shit.
All right, no, I'm being sarcastic. I'll never. You know what? This will get buried.
Of course it will be.
Because people prefer pills to the real work. And you're right, it doesn't matter because I'll keep making the podcast about it and I'll keep screaming as loud as I can and get 400 views and while getting shadow banned on YouTube. And who cares?
And we're going to keep talking about it.
Exactly.
Because like everyone has a responsibility. You have a great amount of knowledge.
Podcasts make a difference.
No.
And that's going to be my next one. We're going to talk about Star Wars, but podcasts make a difference. They do. Yeah, us talking, even if it's to 300 people, it's a shit ton of people to help.
Exactly, and I believe that you already helped so many people, but that's
not enough, but we're moving to the next. Anyway, that'll be the next podcast. There is hope in the Star Wars universe, and I want to talk about that because it shows that we still have power, and I think podcasts are helping.
And within that, I want to make a proud announcement that I watched Star Wars.
All 6, the first 6 episodes. So there you go. Anyway.
I'm integrated.
To the next one.
To the next one.